So we live in very interesting times these days, with the product of ascension, the whole ideological structure of oneness, and different archaic ideas such as gnosis and Taoism, and these different philosophies coming back to the mainstream, people re-associating with them and re-understanding them in different parts of their lives. When I look at figures such as Jesus, Lao Tzu, and Buddha, I see a great deal of compassion and self-discovery in their teachings. I also see a lot of people fitting the philosophies to adhere to what they believe and what they subscribe to as individuals. Now, the reason why I think this is so possible and why these beings were able to do that is because their teachings are a continuum. They are able to be related on so many different levels. They're, in a sense, lacking duality to the point where you can't box them into ideas of good and evil. And I'm more or less talking about the main philosophical structures of their thoughts and what was recorded about them. Especially figures like Lao Tzu and Jesus, which some people don't understand how you can make connections between the two, but they are very, very synced in so many different ways. When I look at Jesus and the idea of love and breaking down the scripture that was said about him and that he said, it's extremely intricate, and people tend to take it at face value, and they don't realize the significance and the mirroring throughout the books of the Bible and the New Testament and teachings of Jesus. For instance, the whole structuring of God and the God complex in Jesus' life, and I don't mean that in a psychological way, like he had a God complex, which some people would think, but it's more on the aspect of him being God incarnate and what that actually means. We look at the word love and the word agape, which is the word that was used to describe the love used for Jesus, or when love was called God, it was the word agape, which is the Greek word, which translates to selflessness. And it's interesting because to find the kingdom of heaven within, which is another thing he said, we need to practice love, was kind of his message. Or at least that's kind of what you can take from the whole scripture itself, the scriptures. But so the word agape translates to selfless love or godly love, and the Bible also says that God is love, and Jesus says that he is God. So Jesus understands that he is love incarnate. As a human being, he is love, which is selflessness, which in the same sense is self, because God is I am. So I am is selfless love, and it has incarnated itself into a human form. Now that's a pretty profound thing to think about, and it's like the rabbit hole goes very deep, and we can really break things down into so many different ways and so many different ideological structures. And that is why significance like that is still powerful to this day. When we look at teachers like Lao Tzu, who taught similar things, more on the subtle nuances of nature and the different aspects of our basic awareness, it is very relatable in that sense, because it's a paradox, and his teachings are paradoxical. They cannot be confined into good and evil, into a binary construct. And the same with Jesus. His core message, I am, which is love, teaching that God is love, is not set to a binary structure. It's not I am this or I am that, but I just simply am. and love. What is love? We can't really describe love. We can describe what love creates and what is expressed from love, but the essence of love is, in my opinion, the deepest form of our existence and who we are. When we tap into love, that is something that is very deep and creates a lot of intricacy in the mind, but at the same time it always comes to a state of paradox because it cannot be pinned down to conceptual thought and processing, much like what Lao Tzu said about the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. And what he meant by that is, what is existence, what is the nature, what is our conscious realm of existence cannot be put into words. So the words I'm using now about the things I'm talking about don't actually represent that what it actually is. So you get caught in this thought loop that brings you around and around and around until you get to the point where you realize that the thought that you had and the thoughts that you're having are useless to be that which is, and that which is love, that I am nature. And Buddha understood this, other philosophers understood this, and they realized that this source of energy, this source of everything, if tapped into, has exponential power to create and just build and govern the systems that we have set in state. And that is why I believe Jesus was so prominent and such a powerful figure, is because his message was the message of love. Pure, unadulterated love. A power that cannot be pinned down by words or thoughts or concepts or ego or vice versa. And at the same time, people tend to put, things like love and ego into this, binary duality, that love is the opposite of ego and ego is something that is bad. It becomes this moral problem, and it's not.